Duly noted. All right, should we get started, everybody? All right, thank you for being here. Can I just first give a welcome to Kendra and Tom? We're so glad not Kendra, you were already been here, Beth. I looked at you first, so welcome to the board. We're happy to have you here, but you're welcome too, Kendra. All right, should we get started, everybody? All right, thank you for being here. Can I just first give a welcome to Kendra and Tom? We're so glad not Kendra, you were already been here, Beth. I looked at you first, so welcome to the board. We're happy to have you here, but you're welcome too.
Being unleashed against President Trump.
And Tom, we're so glad not Kendra, you were already been here, Beth. I looked at you first, so welcome.
Shannon is here.
Happy here, but you're
Yeah,
welcome.
let me see if Shannon McGoran's here. I did this last week.
No. Do you want me to start or wait? Yeah.
Now we'll wait for Shannon or for Gretchen to come back too.
Okay. Okay, we're good. Should I wait for Gretchen though? A sec. Oh. Cheat here.
Very much.
We'll get there.
I have.
Technology, right?
Yes, yeah, at least we aren't in a loop of echoing.
Did you watch the infamous December one?
No, I didn't.
Oh, I've been accused of starting a terrorist type of insurrection.
Oh, congratulations.
It's nuts.
Well,
All right,
it's,
okay.
it's a crazy world we live in.
All right, we're gonna get started with this part of the meeting, the annual organizational part. Christian Kleinans and myself are the nominating committee, and we met on April 3 to determine who would be considered for the open positions of chair, vice chair, and secretary. And for the Office of Community Mental Health of Ottawa County Board Chair, the committee is recommending David Parnan and Gretchen Cosby because both of those people were interested in this position. So at this point, though, I first need to ask, are there any other nominations on the floor for the chair position of the board? Anybody else interested in the chair? One more time, anybody? All right, well then, if there's no one else interested, then I want to make the motion that we put into nomination either David Parnan or Gretchen Cosby for the position of board chair for a one-year term. And then we'll have to do that by roll call votes so that we have that. Yep.
I'm sorry, could you repeat what the
Oh.
process for voting?
So roll call vote, because we have two names on the plate for the board chair. So either Gretchen Cosby or Dave Parnan. So
Okay.
for the chair.
For Gretchen Cosby.
Gretchen Cosby.
Gretchen Cosby.
Gretchen Cosby. Who was that?
Want to vote for my, no, I'm fine with Gretchen Crosby.
You can vote for yourself.
Gretchen Cosby.
Gretchen Cosby.
Gretchen Cosby. Gretchen Cosby.
We
You
fix
got
our
the
tech
issues.
issue. Thank you.
All right, and then we're going to do the same roll call vote for the nomination for vice chair. So at this time, I would recommend Dave Parnan for vice chair. And again, if there's any other nominations for vice chair, is there anybody else that would like to be considered for the vice chair? One more time, vice chair. All right, then I would like to make a motion that we nominate Dave Parnan for the position of vice chair for a period of 1 year. And again, we'll do a roll call vote with that. Not necessary? All right. So can I get,
Okay.
perfect.
Yeah.
Lizzie.
Probably roll. You still need to vote on it, just not a roll call.
Okay. All in favor?
Say
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So Gretchen is the chair and Dave, you're the vice chair. Perfect. All right. And then we have one more position, which is the secretary. And we had one person that was interested in the secretary position. That was Tom Bird. But I do want to open the floor for additional nominations for the position of secretary. Are there any other additional names for the secretary? All right. All right. So then I'd like to make a motion to put into nomination for the secretary of Tom Bird for the role of secretary for 1 year. Does that need to be a roll call or we just vote? Okay.
And I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So vice chair, chair and secretary. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. And I will hand it over to Ms. Cosby to adjourn.
Okay, so
We're
I
gonna
adjourn, adjourn the
this
nominating.
portion.
Okay,
Yep.
so we will adjourn the nominating committee and annual organizational meeting. And we will call to order at 9:07, the regular monthly meeting. We'll start with an invocation. I have asked Commissioner Evil to provide that invocation.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for your goodness, your mercy, and your grace. And Lord, we ask that you take control of this meeting and that you bless us and you protect us. And we thank you for your mercy and that all will go well in this meeting. And we ask that in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Next up is to read our mission and vision statements. Let's see, it was on here. The mission statement of community mental health county partners with the county community mental health of Ottawa County partners with people with mental illness, intellectual and developmental disabilities, and substance use disorders, and the broader community to improve lives in premier mental health agency as a premier mental health agency in Michigan. The vision is community mental health of Ottawa County strives to enhance quality of life for all residents. Next up is public comment. Please come to the podium and share your name and jurisdiction in which you vote. And then you have 3 minutes and address all comments to the chair.
My name's David Barnowski and I vote in Port Sheldon Township. First thing I wanted to say is I haven't been here in quite some time. The last time I spoke at the next meeting, Mr. Rockman stepped up and terribly either misunderstood or mischaracterized my statements and seemed to believe that I made threats against this board. He either did not understand or just totally mischaracterized what I said as threats. They were threats totally in the political realm, not in the physical realm. I don't know how he misunderstood that. He's a lawyer. He should have been able to understand my plain English. At first I thought it was funny and then I thought it was sad, but we'll just move on past that. There was no intention of physical violence. Second, I hoped Lynn Doyle would be here. I wanted to express the deep appreciation for her service. She's been very good at her job, as far as I can tell, and I have been paying attention for well over a year. I hope to find a way to express appreciation of myself and a lot of the people I know in the Facebook group that I have founded, some 5,000 people, or almost 5,000 people. Third, I wanted to congratulate the Momentum Center on an award, at least one award that they've, People's Choice Award that they've recently received. I think that they may have gotten more than one recent award, but I'm only aware for sure of the one. And the last point I wanted to make is the disappointment I have that another seat of power goes to one of the 4 or 5 Ottawa Impact commissioners. I believe Mr. Parnan should have become the chairman.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment?
Good morning, Barbara Lee Van Horsen, City of Grand Haven, and the Momentum Center. First, yes, we did get the People's Choice Award for Best Nonprofit through the Grand Haven Tribune's contest. So that was very exciting. I'm also really thrilled to share that a couple of weeks ago, we were in Lansing where we received the Hometown Health Hero Award and even had Senator Roger Victory join us for that celebration. So very excited about that and the being recognized for the impact we're having on people who are struggling with mental illness and addictions and disabilities, and the difference we're making in improving depression, anxiety, loneliness, social isolation. It's such important work. And in that vein, I want to thank and acknowledge Lynn Doyle for her deep love of this community, for her willingness to be creative and think out of the box and find new ways to reach people, because that's what we need, are multiple different ways to reach people. There's no one answer to the issues that we're all struggling with at one point or another. So to speak specifically to our social recreational program, I'm also delighted that we're able to offer mental illness only and IDD only programming in addition to our blended programming. Our calendar is more robust than ever, and I wouldn't have thought it could even get more robust. I also want to remind people of the transportation that's available to anybody in the county who's interested in becoming a member at either the Grand Haven or the Holland site. That transportation is available for at least the next couple of months. And finally, I'd like to invite anybody from the board to come to our prom and experience what Prom with the Purpose is all about. It takes place May 18th. It's an incredible evening of dinner and dancing where we bring together people who don't normally have an opportunity to socialize with each other. And I'd like to personally buy your $35 ticket if you're interested and willing to come and see what it's all about. May 18th at the Trillium. I'd love to invite you all to the prom. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Mr. Kleinjens. All right, so moving on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Do you have discussion?
Bring it up in discussion.
I guess the only question I had was the amendment. That was emailed to us yesterday afternoon, right?
Okay, I think,
Okay.
The only event was I had neglected in the original, you put the motion numbers on, so I realized that there was no change in content, only the order of the numbers of the votes. So the original one did not. But there was no content change.
Okay.
Motion about the CHHS amendment.
Okay.
I think it's smart, huh?
We made it through the motion and then support. We did. Okay. Just wondering. We haven't done the support yet.
I'm just
Support.
confused on the, I'm sorry.
Yeah, discussion. Good. Okay.
I'm just confused on the amendment you said with the number changes or the amendment.
The minutes or to the agenda.
There was an email sent yesterday.
Yeah.
One was the addition, they're related to the agenda. That was start mid-afternoon, and then
Mhm.
after that, another, just version of the minutes, and the minutes that are printed does not reflect the changes. That's why I have to refer to those minutes. The minutes that I sent late today yesterday are the minutes that being approved. And if they're
Okay.
posted on the website, but the one that I asked to be considered. The only change is just to, but the original one did not have the motion numbers. So I just added.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Yeah, it just gets a little
Okay.
confusing.
And I thought you were
Yeah.
referring to the one in new business. So yes.
Okay.
All right. So all those in favor of passing the motion for the consent agenda to be approved, say aye.
Hi.
And opposed, same sign. Moving on to old business, which it looks like we have none. And so next up would be new business. And under new business, first up is April 2024 service contracts. That's attachment A with Bill Phelps. Suggested motion is to approve the April 2024 service contracts as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support. All right, in discussion. Good morning, Bill.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Let me know if there's feedback. And if I could ask if folks could really speak clearly into the microphones, my thing isn't picking up the interpreter thing very well today, so bear with me.
Okay.
So, okay, we're here today to seek approval for 5 contracts. Just go through all 5 of them and then do, okay. Okay, the first one is for Grayson Enterprises. That's a Grayson home in Borculo. We had an emergency placement there, and the individual that's being placed is having difficulty sleeping at night. So they're requesting some additional funding for staff for 3rd shift for a period of time to help them get stabilized. So that's the first one. Second one, Georgetown Harmony Homes. And that's in Hudsonville and Jenison. We have the mental health endowment fund grant dollars that we'd like to use to purchase gym memberships to the YMCA in Granville. And that's for $3,200 total. Next one is for Brightside Living. This is a group of homes that we've used in the past. And we discontinued the contract in September because we didn't have anybody currently living in the homes and we didn't have any plans to move anybody. Well, here we are. We got somebody that really wants to move into the home in Cedar Springs and particularly one in Caledonia. So we're seeking contract for a few homes. The next one is for the Arc of Muskegon, and this is a renewal contract for independent facilitation services. And that is a staff person that would be part of the person-centered planning process to kind of act as a, I don't know, mediator, you know, just to be a support for the family during the person-centered planning process. And then the last one was with Big Heart 2. And this is a foster care home located in East Lansing. We had a person that was recently given a 30-day notice to move out of the home that they were in, which was located in Lansing. And the person really wanted to stay in the Lansing area. So this is a newer home that was newly licensed. And they had some openings. So we're seeking contract with that one to place the person there. And those are the 5.
Is there discussion? Looking for Stephen.
Yeah, I got some questions. Let me just sort through all of this here. Okay, referring to, I guess we'll start with the first one, Grace, and I appreciate you put the link on there to Lara so that we can take a look at these homes to see if there are any special investigations. And I noticed for this one, there was one involving a mix-up in the delivery of medication, Ativan. And superficially, it, looks like you jump to conclusion, oh, this looks like diversion. And I guess the conclusion is it was poor management or handling of the distribution of medication. And I was wondering if, I'd ask for, if we on the board, does this require a corrective action report? If, our recipient rights or anybody else receives the corrective action reports, I understand we'd have to request it by a FOIA. And is there a process then at CMH for us to request these corrective action reports so we have confidence that the measures taking seem rational, reasonable?
So
Yeah.
I'll answer that.
Okay.
So our recipient rights office does work with licensing. If an issue becomes a recipient rights issue, I don't know if they were involved with this one. But when we reached out to the licensing agent at Lara, they said that we had to request it via FOIA if we wanted that documentation.
So as an organization, anybody here would have to request a FOIA. We'd have to put in place a process then?
That was what we were told by Lara. Yes.
Okay. Has that been done in the past? I was wondering about creating a process, because we come across, we're being presented with a lot of contracts for these group homes, and you go and you do some research, and it just raises, you see a history of things happening. It raises concerns, and you'd like to know before we continue sending people to these homes and funding it, what corrective action was taken, if anything, that might help us to address these issues proactively in the future if we know the sorts of things that are considered to be appropriate corrective actions.
So our recipient rights office and our residential ombuds do work with the homes. We do look to make sure that the license is active and regular with Lara. In this instance, that license is an active, regular license. I do not know offhand if a recipient rights investigation was done with that home. When I asked Brianna about this, Brianna Fowler, our recipient rights director, she had said she hadn't had investigations at that home. I do not know necessarily if our process includes asking Lara for corrective action plans. Typically, that's going to be done when Brianna is working with homes on investigations or working with licensing together on an investigation. I can confirm with Brianna that what her process is with that when an investigation is happening.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then it's a follow-up question about this enhanced rate. Bill, can you tell me something more about that? I see that it's a $250, and I can understand that that's what, a per day, and is this somehow split up between personal care and CLS? I'm curious about what the unit rates are for, say, CLS. Could you elaborate more on what this enhanced rate at $250 means?
Oh, sure. So then the enhanced rate will cover a staff, additional staffing person to be available during the sleeping hours. Can't tell you exactly what that means. 10 to 7, if that's what that means to me, but I don't know for sure in this case. To be available because the person is really having difficulty with sleeping at night, and they want to make sure that they have an additional staff on top of the one that they normally have in case, situations come up.
Okay.
It's not uncommon in health systems too, to pay more for the night shift too. So that might be factoring in here.
Okay. And would you happen to know what the unit rates are? Were you ever presented that information, like say for the CLS?
This one, that 250, it's a
I'm
200.
sorry, the CMH meeting that Barbara's at.
So it's not a unit rate, a 15-minute unit. It is a daily rate.
And she's
Right,
there.
and I see that's, they've got listed there for billing levels of care varies by client for personal care and CLS. Obviously I'm interested in that because I'm making a relationship between that and self-D. So I'm curious about what the rate
This
might
is
be.
self-determination. Self-determination uses community CLS.
Right, you explain
and
that.
This is a residential program, so this is a daily per diem.
I'm just interested in the comparison.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all the questions I have about this contract, though.
Are there any other questions? Oh, Mr. Byrd.
Just an anecdotal comment to Stephen's question. My daughter lives in a group home, and if an incident were to occur, such as missed medication or a fall or an injury, an incident report would be generated by staff, and we as parents would be notified. I'm assuming that would be the standard for any licensed group home. I believe CMH staff, the sports coordinator, would also be advised of an incident report being filed. So I believe staff should have knowledge of that directly. And presumably when you do inspections of the facility, you would be looking for a record of incidents reports.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, in the instance that was being referred to, that was not a person who was receiving community mental health services.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Yeah. I don't want to monopolize it, but I'm looking at the Georgetown Harmony home contract. And I see that there's coming out of the Health Endowment Fund grant, $3,200. Do you know how much is left in that grant right now?
So
Ooh.
if for a question like that, if we would know ahead of time, it'd be easier for us to have an answer with that. I don't have those balances offhand, so I can send a follow-up email to the board with that information.
Okay. And do you know when Harmony Homes was notified of the availability of this grant? Because I see now we're talking about a period from May 1 to September 30th is the duration of this funding. And I was looking at this grant material I got. This grant seems to have been out there since created back in July of 23. So I'm wondering what efforts were made to promote the grant so that Harmony, how they became aware of this, so they knew to apply for it.
So I'll work with our grant manager to find out when they were notified. Our grant manager, along with supports coordinators, have been working to inform parents, guardians, and group homes that this grant is available, so people can opt in to participate. This home expressed interest recently, since this contract is just coming forward, that they wanted to purchase memberships at a gym for people who are living in their facility. The grant is ending on 9/30. We're on a 1-year extension with that grant. So this is we're winding that down. So this was an effort to expend the funds.
Okay. And I'm curious about, a lot of times I'm looking at these contracts and grants, and it always seems to be this blurring of distinction of what we're doing here as a CMH or as a CCBHC. And I noticed that the grant creator in this is in our organizational chart is the CCBHC Integrated Care Grant Manager. And so I'm just wondering if there's any overlap between this project with the Michigan Health Endowment Fund and SAMHSA.
No, there is no overlap. This is a totally separate fund through the Mental Health Endowment Fund. So our grant manager reports to our Integrated Care and Community Development Program Supervisor, who's overseeing a variety of different things, including CCBHC, but along with all grant programming that we have. Not all grants are related to SAMHSA or CCBHC.
Okay. Yeah, just raised some curiosity because it was months ago, a bunch of people were getting IDD, were getting these letters sent to them. It says contact CCBHC if you have any questions about participating in a healthy lifestyle Michigan Health Endowment Fund grant. And that's where questions of overlap seem to be coming up. because I see that thing is, CCBHC, and then there's also in the materials you gave me about the grant application, I see that it talks about promoting health fairs, and I see we got a health fair coming up May 16th, which is funded by SAMHSA. And, is there a relationship between what we're doing here with these gym memberships and these health fairs that are being, I don't know if they're being funded by the Health Endowment Fund or if they're being funded by SAMHSA now. There seems to be a lot of confusion.
Yeah. Endowment Fund isn't funding the health fair, but we do share information about the health fair with people participating in any programming at Community Mental Health. That the health fair is for anybody in the community to raise awareness about health and wellness activities throughout the community. So it's not talking about what CCBHC is or what the Mental Health Endowment Fund grant is doing. It's really to get community organizations together where people can go and find out what they're doing.
I guess I might as well just keep moving along, hey, Bill? I'm going to turn to the, well, I guess, the bright side, thanks again for, giving us the link to the AFC site. And, to Spring Lake Home, I see there's a history of special investigations took place there. And we did discuss about the, incident reports or a process to going forward to try to get corrective action. So I really guess I don't have anything more to add to that. Moving on to the ARC of Muskegon. Can you tell me how many independent facilitators do they have?
As far as the utilization of the program, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're contracting with them to provide independent facilitation. I'm assuming they have certain people have been designated or trained to do that role as independent facilitator. I'm wondering how many people that might be.
Well, I can answer that. So right now there are 2 independent facilitators available for people to select from. And we are looking at adding 1 more independent facilitator to that list, but they have not been added yet. So,
Okay,
and that's available on our website to see who the independent facilitators are.
okay, yeah, I saw a couple of names on there.
Yeah.
One of those one was ARC and one was not with.
Yeah.
So that's what I was wondering. Now, if somebody contacts CMH about independent facilitation, are they only referred to those 2 independent facilitators, or are they given information about a larger pool of available candidates for doing that?
Those are the ones that we have available that we can offer, but if there are other independent facilitators that people would like to work with, we're able to do that. And I know that's been done in other instances.
Okay, because yeah, I know.
We're always looking to expand that pool. It's a niche to fill. So if you or anybody on the board connects with somebody who's interested in doing independent facilitation, please let me know.
Okay, see, I know there's a pool of candidate people on the Michigan Developmental Disabilities Institute through Wayne State. And in our region, there's a whole list of people who are available. And I don't know if I need a motion for this, but one of those people is in the audience today, and maybe they can, make a brief presentation to the board about just, the opportunities they're offering for independent facilitation and about, what exactly it is. Chair? I don't know, do I, can you say something we can invite somebody, or we have to make a motion or schedule that in the future to do that?
I would like to schedule it in the future if we could,
Okay.
just because we've got a full agenda
Right.
today, and maybe that person who I think I know will have an opportunity to provide a
Okay.
presentation. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I just want to expand the pool range of choices that people have for independent facilitation. And then,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, and in Big Heart too, I guess. I guess we need to be, I'd like us to be notified in the future if there are any special investigations. This is a new home. We don't have a track record of it. Could we somehow be provided of that so that we're not finding out, at these meetings, we're going to the link and then finding out, years ago, this particular home had a problem. Can we proactively going forward, get that information presented to us, sooner? If there is some sort of developments, or investigations that should occur, say here.
I don't know if that's the work of contracts per se, but could we, when we have homes that are listed, just do kind of a, and maybe that's Brianna, I don't know. But think through a process where we
Yeah.
can, just if there are investigations, we're not discovering, and it probably would save some time too, or something that we could just talk about and address.
Yeah,
meeting?
and maybe that's something Gretchen, you and I could work on as board chair to come up with a process. It might fit well with the Recipient Rights Advisory Committee that meets quarterly. So I think you and I could talk about that.
Yeah, thank you. Is that satisfactory?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
I guess I might as well end this with a plum. All this discussion about grants and specialized residential for me creates and it raises the importance, I think, of create committees to do oversight and report to the board. So we're not having to engage in these long discussions, learning about this for the first time. I would like to say, have the board form a grant committee to provide oversight over the CMH/CCBHC grant applications, the implementation, and the spending. Because, every grant imposes various obligations on the organization and on the provider. And I think it would be helpful if we knew what that was, what commitments we're making here, what we're expecting grant providers to have to follow through on. And also what the deadlines are, how many grants are sitting out there that, we've created and we got approval for that have to be spent. And how is the money being spent? That would be, I think, another thing that would be good oversight for that committee. So I'd like to see, us have it, consider doing something like that. And also board form a specialized residential committee. So, providing oversight over these homes that we're contracting with and sending residents from Ottawa County to, who might, where there might be a history of problems. And, what can we do proactively as a board to try to head these things off? And I think that really fits into our ability to get more information about the corrective action reports to help guide us and what might, be proactive action we could take to, we're not having these, like a lot of this got brought up when we had a discussion about Flat Rock and, and a lot of that was quite shocking. And it raises a lot, anxiety and concern. And you don't want to be on the board and have to vote for somebody or vote for a group home and put in this position. Well, if you don't do it, somebody's going to be homeless or you're going to create a chaotic situation back in the home. And we don't want to do that. But we'd like to do something proactively to make sure we can head these problems off from ever occurring. And so I think it would be useful to have a couple of committees. Maybe we have some further discussion today or down the road about whether or not that's practical for us to create a grant committee and a specialized residential committee.
I think I'd just like to comment on it. I think we have to be careful that a lot of these areas we're talking about here have staff members who have responsibilities in these areas. And I think if there's information we're not getting or we would like, I would rather that we simply try to get that information than set up a whole new committee structure. That will just, in my mind, cause confusion. And we have to let staff do their job. And we can ask for information that we would like, but I don't think the board should be in a position to step into those kind of roles.
Well, I think that's a good idea about in fact, to do a committee, I think it'd be a good idea to have staff participate in that. And it could be in recipient rights. And we could have, members of the public who have children in group homes. And it could be people who are advocates for, IDD. So I just don't want us to be put in this awkward position where we encounter these problems instead of knowing about this far ahead of time so that makes our deliberation, I think, more effective.
My question to this would be, in all of our policies, it states that we are a board of governance, and this can veer quite quickly into administration, which is not our purview. So I would like county legal to give their estimate of it, as well as a note sent to CMHAM to see what they, as our overarching umbrella organization, feel about this as well. There are countywide regular groupings meeting that do gather this sort of data that come back to us in reports given through Anna and Lynn in the past. So I think to a certain degree in this, the information you want to is being gathered, perhaps not in a form that is the most direct line, but it is being collated and gathered out there among our consumers, their families, and providers. So, you know, it's an interesting concept that I think is worth discussing, but I would like, before we even get deeper into that, I would like a couple of opinions from people who could tell us, organizations that we rely on that could tell us that this is not something that we venture into.
Well, certainly, I think that'd be useful to get those guidelines from them to help us
Commissioner
inform
Brody.
a decision.
Yeah, I would just note that we've strayed kind of far from the
The
agenda
agenda. I
item
agree.
that we're actually on. And so I think that
We're
when
getting to solutions. seeking.
yes,
Yeah.
so I think that when we have ideas about solutions and stuff, those are ideas that should be brought to the board chair for consideration to be placed on the agenda for discussion then, so then everybody can be prepared. There can be some background discussion done with staff to figure out if this is something, you know, that should be considered at the board level. And we can kind of come prepared and work through those solutions before we even get here. So I would kind of like to get back to the agenda
Agenda.
item for this point, at this point.
And what we can do, Anna, we can meet, and David, I invite you to come along with too. And so we can take your concerns and see if there's a way that we can address them prior to the meeting. And then that information will be available. Does that sound satisfactory?
Yeah, I just like to work through the process.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so the motion on the table is to approve April 2024 service contracts as presented. All those in, oh, sorry, we got it already. I'm gonna say all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. All right, moving on in new business. Suggested motion. Forgive me, I'm gonna try to stay organized here, folks. Is for, let's see, it's the FY 2024 March financial statements. Suggested motion is to approve the FY 2024 March financial statements as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Support.
Support. And Amy for discussion.
All right, so we have fund summaries for both the mental health and SUD Fund 222 and the millage and grants Fund 223. Again, through March, this is our mid-year status. We are in a healthy position. You'll see revenues to expenses are in a healthy position. We're 46% spent to budget. We are slightly ahead of receivables for revenues for our millage in budget. So all on a good course. Nothing extraordinary in the mental health fund, so no news is good news in that regard. Same for millage and grants. We are, if you recall, in prior months, we kind of were ahead of the spend because we had some upfront payments at the beginning of the year. So that's starting to catch up and we're kind of balancing out in a good position there as well. And remain in a increased net position overall for both funds. The next document, just a detail of the year-to-date expense by primary program, kind of standard. You see kind of as you go through the months, the trend, you know, the trending is typical where the IDD services are a significant portion of our operation with MI, contractual services, autism, kind of second, third, SUD services in there as well. And then by percent in a pie chart on the next page. our year-to-date revenues by funding type, kind of broken out. You'll see, some of what happens with our payments for our Medicaid health plans is there's kind of a give and take depending on what clients we're serving within any particular period, where we'll be paid ahead and be behind depending on the eligibility and the actual client served. So that's kind of where some seem to be over budget, some are under on the revenues received. But all in all, if you look at the totals, they calculate and cumulatively, we're in a healthy position for that fund. Next page, contracted services and direct run services by activity type. Pretty standard, and it has dollars representative of each service. So I know you'd ask about grant details. We're still working on a work paper and working with Anna on that. So I just didn't have a chance to get a document together for her to review. So we'll have something by next month.
I think you anticipated my question.
Yes. I didn't forget. We just have, it's kind of hard to, you got to build a work paper and to pull the data out. So.
Oh, could you explain again what the wraparound is all about, what that means?
So you're talking about the
We're looking
services
at
on
contracted
the,
direct run services activity type, yeah.
so those are specific codes that are for services with that are either before or after that are co-occurring with traditional services. I don't know the code set, but this is all based on actual service activity reporting. So like a particular I don't even know wraparound, like H20, I know the numbers, like the H2000 code is a wraparound code, but there are particular services that tie to like specialized residential PC, CLS services, or they're kind of the before and after. It's this is all based on the standard reporting model that the state has. And I can share the code set, which drives this information. But that's the wraparound services are, my understanding of that, I'm not the clinician, but is the services that are before and after any particular or kind of co-aligned with certain services.
Would it be helpful if we got a definition for the board of what wraparound services are?
Yeah, I mean, just conceptually, I like
think
to
I
have a
know
better
what it
idea
is,
what that
but-
means. I don't need to see the codes.
Well, I mean,
Completely understandable. I'll get a definition of wraparound to the board.
thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr.
I
Bird?
have a couple of questions. I know administrative expense as listed here is about 3.2% of revenue. Do you know, is that category defined by statute as to what expenses are included in administrative, and is that uniform across the entire system in the state? In the past, we've made comparisons of how our agency's administrative expense compares to other agencies within the state.
Mhm.
And then also a useful comparison when looking at privatizing some of the services. The typical administrative expense for a nonprofit or a for-profit healthcare provider is about 15%. So we've always prided ourselves in being able to deliver meaningful services at a much reduced administrative overhead. So I'm just wondering if you have any ability to make a comparison there.
So yes, we have what's called the Encounter Quality Initiative, which does define the actual service activity cost, the true cost of services, and we have to define the administrative costs. We have to spell that all out, whether it's actual administration, recipient rights services, they're all defined. These numbers are based on the state's model for reporting of administrative services. And they're kind of broken out by different cost categories within that. and then the rest would be actual reported as encounter or service activity. So, as far as comparison, we are CMHs are mandated to a certain medical loss ratio on an annual basis, and we're within that standard. We're below that standard regionally. We're below that standard. We meet those standard requirements for medical loss ratio, which is the percent of admin to your service delivery costs. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
Yes.
But, okay. And maybe some more of that detail can be provided with that report or something from the LRE, because they're the ones that monitor our activity and our success rate on that ratio.
Okay, and a couple of other quick questions. I didn't see a number for our reserve fund balance. Is that something we typically track for the board?
So I had been reporting it in the millage and grants fund up until the end of when we closed the last fiscal year, because it wasn't posted in our, it hadn't been posted into our current year. It was still in the fund balance from our prior year. Now that the year is closed, it's cumulative here. And so these totals included in summary, but it's not spelled out. I can put that back in as a line item detail if you want to just see that balance. Our
Okay.
fund balance.
We do have some targets, right, for our Medicaid fund, reserve fund balance that statutorily we're allowed to carry.
We follow all the standards. There aren't typically we would return everything that is unspent. So there shouldn't be a fund balance of Medicaid dollars year to year. Unless it's unrestricted funds that are predefined in that way.
So those unspent Medicaid dollars are returned to the BIHP and they would carry a reserve balance for the
Correct.
region?
Correct.
Okay. And then the other question I have regarding the grant expenses for the health grant. I looked at that particular one and $3,500, and then you read the accounting responsibilities for the provider that come along with that. As a businessman, I was constantly looking at things like, I've got a customer that has a past due balance of $15. Well, what does it cost me to bill them and have them write a check and mail it to me and me process it and deposit that check? I'll just write it off. It's not worth the trouble to do that. And if I were a provider here for $3,500, what I have to do, the records I have to keep, the reporting I have to do, I don't know that we keep track of that, but we certainly have an administrative cost to apply for a grant and monitor that grant and monitor the recipients of the grant. And at some point, I would hope staff would look at that and say, it's not worth our effort to do that. And that's not within your purview, perhaps, but it's related to finances.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we do a lot of the detail work of reporting all the, keeping track of all the paperwork. So certainly I get your point, but right, that would be something outside of fiscal's purview per se.
Thank you.
That's an interesting thought, though, definitely. Just even across the county, not only with CMH, what does it cost us to actually achieve the grant?
Well, and it's interesting that there was money left, in that fund, and maybe that's why, maybe it is more work for people to actually use that grant than
To
the
administer.
benefit.
Yep.
So.
Thank you for that.
Good feedback.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none. So the motion is to approve the FY 2024 March financial statement. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. And same sign, opposed. Moving on to the next item, and that is the amendment number 1 to the FY 2024 grant agreement between Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and Community Mental Health of Ottawa County. Suggested motion is to authorize the Deputy Director to sign the amendment number 1 to the FY 2024 grant agreement between MDHHS and CMHOC. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Support.
Support. Any discussion? I think. Do you want to share any information, Anna, or does everybody understand kind of what?
I wouldn't mind a quick overview of what the changes are.
Yeah, so this is.
And I know you shared it with me. That's why I'm picking on you. So thank you.
So we received the notification of this grant amendment earlier this week, and it was placed on this agenda because we need to return that amendment within 2 weeks. So we did put together a crosswalk for you to be able to see the previous language and amendment language. So thank you
That was
to
nice.
Patricia for doing all of that for us. There were not any substantive changes to this amendment. It really is a lot of formatting changes, combining some language. They did remove language. We're making sure that our recipient rights office is well aware. It changed a little bit of the wording for reporting requirements. So we'll make sure that she has the proper templates to use when she's doing her every 3-year assessment. And same for the compliance, there were not any substantive changes. And no financials are involved with this. This is really our compliance reporting requirements.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just was curious. Thank you for answering, because it's, when we get it, yesterday afternoon, I was like, I don't know what I'm signing to give you the permission to necessarily do.
We had
but-
the same question when we received it the day before.
Yeah.
We did not have a notice.
Uh,
So it was quick work that was done by our staff to get that done. So again, thank you to Patricia for doing that.
Yeah.
Fortunate we had a meeting, a committee.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. All right.
Yeah, I really appreciated the highlights. So thank you.
All right. So the motion on the table is to authorize the deputy director to sign the amendment number 1 to the FY 2024 grant agreement between MDHHS and CMHOC. All those in favor? Yes. Opposed, same sign. Yay, moving on. And so next on our agenda is a discussion regarding the executive director recruitment and human resource process. Let's see, I invited Marcy Verbeek, our human resource director, to come and kind of talk to us about some steps necessary. Whatever you want to do, wherever you're comfortable, Marcy.
You've got a lot of paper. You can come sit up here with us.
Yeah. Where do you need to sit? Make sure I have all of my notes kind of worked out here. So the reason why I brought Marcy here, because it's all new to us. Unfortunately, Lynn, our executive director for CMHOC, had submitted her retirement approximately 1 week ago. And her notice said that her last day would be on the 20th of May. And that's due to health-related reasons. So I thought it was important because we do have a timeline too that we need to kind of sort out and understand. That we have all parties who have that expertise here at the table. And so, Marcy, if you want to speak, do you have a presentation, or I can ask you questions too?
I just figured I would be here for any questions you have. I'm Marcy Verbeek. I'm the HR director here at Ottawa County. I've been with Ottawa County for about 16 years in the HR department. So again, I understand a little bit about what the process is that you guys are going to be diving into, and really happy here to assist and help and answer questions along the way.
And I thought it would be helpful for questions because obviously we have not done this before. So the board policy that we'll be referring to, and I think it's available to the community, is it's chapter 21, section 10. And that is succession planning and leadership development. So according to that policy in section 4, we have the procedure. And it is in the event that there are 3 paragraphs within the procedure on page 21. But it's paragraph 2, in the event that the executive director is no longer able to serve in the position, i.e. leaves indefinitely, the executive committee, which was nominated and elected today of the board, shall do the following. Within 5 business days, appoint an interim executive director. Within 15 business days, appoint an executive transition committee. Am I understanding that that is from the date that her last day. So, wanted to talk about, yes,
Does
please, Anna.
anybody need a board member handbook? I brought extras if you're looking
Oh,
for
that's nice.
the
Thank
policy.
you. Yeah.
Like trying to help each other find it.
So that was one of the emails you had sent.
Yeah, I know, and I'm trying to find the email right now also.
We're totally not appropriate to say that at this point, but. I got it.
Did anybody else need one?
Also.
Okay. All right. And so as I'm looking, and this is where I wanted verification too, Lynn stated that her last day would be May 20th.
Yes, May 20th.
And so these are business days. I was looking at 5/27, May 27 as our due date for our interim director, executive director. Does everybody agree?
Mhm.
Okay. And then 15 business days from 5/20 is June 10th. Does that sound accurate?
Yes.
So, and part of our requirement too is to make sure that we actually establish a time frame and a plan for the recruitment and selection process. So that's why I want to put it out here. One of the question or concerns that I heard was that our next meeting is actually May 24th, and Anna, you and I talked about this. And so the question I wanted to bring forward to this committee is to see if we wanted to do that a little bit earlier because of our timeline, but also because it's also it's Memorial Day weekend. Is that? So maybe today we can think about it, kind of look at your calendars. I want to be respectful of Marcy's time too. But look at our calendars and before the meeting's over, try to come up with a new date. Does that sound reasonable? Yeah. Okay. So why I invited Marcy here is that I would like to learn about the recruitment of an executive, the posting policy, the hiring policy, basically. And, you know, especially since the interim isn't so short, you know, we've got a real short period of time, what that looks like, if you can be helpful that way. Ultimately, the hiring decision rests within this board, the CMH board. And so I just wanted to make sure that, you know, the part where human resources for the county is understood how they help us. And then to also notify the board that we're responsible for making this decision. So I had several questions of Marcy, but I want to give this board an opportunity to ask questions as well.
And just to put it out there again, because this
Yep.
board makes that decision, we're really here for guidance. I did go back and look at what's happened in the past. So really just giving that information to you and being here to help along the way, so.
I appreciate that. Go
I
ahead.
guess just one question I do have is, do you have an overview of kind of what happened the last time? And was your department involved in helping in that process?
The last, when Lynn,
Yes.
Director Doyle was hired, I don't believe our department was involved in that process.
Okay.
Maybe posted the position, but really the board took that on. The previous Director Brashears, it appears, because that was before I came to the county. I've got the timeline and the process that was used because that did involve quite a bit of work from the human resources team. But that was the previous director. And again, so I've got timelines of what took place on that previous one. And I'm sure Anna also could fill in a lot of the gaps because you guys were here when Director Doyle was hired also.
Is there protocol for department head vacancies in terms of who or where you advertise across the state? Or is that totally up to the organization
It's-
to make those recommendations?
It's really up to the organization, just because there's so many different groups. For example, CMH is not going to look the same as a facilities director, as the same as an HR director. So that's really when we work with the hiring managers. Again, when we do normal hiring, we work with the hiring manager to see where are those groups you want to target. And at the same time, we still have the robust system that the HR has, where we can use our applicant tracking system to gain the applicants, if that works best for this group, and be able to sort through them that way. And again, it's a consistent process that has all the correct terminology for the applications, and making sure it meets all the federal and state standards of what you require in application. So again, we can help with that process. I did go back and look at what was done in the past. So again, unfortunately, when you get to these places, I know you want to get somebody as soon as possible, just making sure you have all those questions answered along the way.
Absolutely. And I think, were you asking if we had like an executive hiring policy? Is that what you were thinking? I know, I was wondering the same thing.
There's not necessarily a policy, it's just more of the protocol that we use. So when we create an executive recruitment profile, we've got a draft to hand over that would just show you kind of how we do it with internal ones where HR is helping with, and then would really work with your group if you wanted us to help along the way.
Ottawa CMH have an in-house lead that deals with personnel kinds of issues, or is it all just sent over to their?
We work closely with human resources on personnel issues. This position is unique because this position reports directly to the board. And it's a contracted, the executive director position is a contracted position that reports to the board. So it makes it unique in this county structure.
Is there a administrative assistant kind of person in Ottawa CMH that could help with organizing some of these many details, or is that going to come to you?
So,
As
yeah, again, when Lynn is off, so as she is right now, so on medical leave, the policy reads the deputy director assumes all responsibilities of the director. So with that, I would be here to assist the board to move forward with what they would like to do. And I could assist with working with Marcy.
Anna will be our point of contact. So, and that brings to mind too. So right now, kind of handling it in two buckets, right? We've got the interim position that needs to be handled pretty quickly. And then, we've got some time for the actual hiring of an executive director. So starting with the interim, should we be how would we encourage people to apply? What would the application process look like, both internally and externally?
There's nothing written out on what that process would look like for an interim. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, the last time the board just appointed an interim, there was not an application process.
No posting process.
No posting process. Yes, I was gonna say, Patricia, you've done a couple
So
of these. Right.
Okay. So we don't anticipate them
And that's
posting for this
fairly normal.
position.
That's fairly normal, what
Okay.
we do with most interim positions with the
Okay.
county also. Again, because we're gonna put them kind of side by side, even though there's definitely different rules to this one.
Okay. And so let's see. And our closing date. So we're going to vote on another date to meet. And no prohibit. So if somebody externally was interested, recommendation would be then to contact who?
I would imagine it would be the board chair.
Board chair? Okay.
That would be what I
And
would
so I
imagine it to
can
be.
get my contact.
That's what I
info.
would
You have my
recommend. The way the
contact.
policy reads, the board chair really is the one with the responsibility for this committee.
Okay. So
Just a question, and maybe you already sat through this. Do we need to wait until May 20 to, not 22, but May 20 to offer, I'm not sure what the right
We
word
have to
is.
wait to
or
make an offer.
We can't do anything.
We
until
can't
May
do
20.
anything
Okay.
until
All
May
right, just wanna
20.
make sure I
That
got
is her
correct.
last day of work.
Okay.
So, as I understand it.
She's
So,
technically still working.
Yep.
Madam Chair,
yes.
if I could,
Mr.
I think we need to separate a few things, just as a foundational question. If I make a statement, please correct me if I'm wrong. The board has the absolute responsibility and authority to hire the executive director totally apart from county input and responsibility. But the county commissioners do have the right of veto in the event of the selection of a new executive director. Am I correct that
I
a
think that would
2/3
be a-
vote of county commissioners could negate that?
That would be a corporation council question, just to
Okay.
make sure we get the legal, but I believe that to be accurate.
But just to clarify, this board could act totally independent of county input and resources in either of these decisions. However, my experience with other agencies, in the event of a major opening such as this, the county resources have been wonderful in supporting the organization. The Area Coordinating Council, for example, on 3 times handled the development of criteria for the search committee, and also advertised the positions and actually did pre-screening to make sure applicants met those requirements, and then forwarded them to the agency for action. So that might be something for us to certainly lean on the
Work
resources of
through.
the county to do.
Yeah, I'm thinking for the actual executive director position, that's, so the first bucket or first bucket of work is the interim. And it sounds like that's a little more informal, and to contact the chair if you're an interested party before whatever date we decide to meet here, but it cannot be done until after May 20th. Does that sound accurate?
Well, I would argue that we could probably start to take steps in receiving information and considering applicants, probably not make a decision. until
Not make a
after that.
decision. Yep. Yes. Thanks for that clarification
That was kind of what my question was
too.
Yeah.
Yep.
You
So,
could begin the process of assignment because you know that Lynn is retiring, so you can start the second part of the process, which is finding your full-time director. I understand.
so, well, and is there any way that, should we make that announcement? I mean, publicly, that we're looking for, candidates for the interim position, or will this satisfy? Will this be enough?
It's a great question. I mean, it's your
I
choice.
just want to
think
make
this would
sure that,
be enough
it's
just
like
because
later
of
on, I
past
don't
practice.
hear that we
Right.
skipped a step. I don't want that. I want, and so the reason why I have you here is for the public to be aware of all the steps that we're taking to make sure this is a very fair and transparent process.
Yes, and I think that because it is an appointment by the board, I don't think that there's, any other set things that we're required to do, but it's what we choose to do.
To do. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So. All right. So do we think that just our current conversation, this meeting is enough to advertise that we are looking for an interim executive director?
Well, I guess maybe I'm reading this wrong, because, I mean, that the conversation itself, it says the executive committee makes that decision. However, a lot of the things we've talked about are more the transition committee that needs to be developed to kind of work that forward in the next paragraph of our policy. So as far as external consultation for the bits and pieces that we need and what we might want to see and what we might not see what we see, because this is a very young board. That is your other bucket. I mean, my
The
thinking is,
executive director position is the other bucket in my mind, Christian. So I think that second paragraph deals basically with the interim, and then the next one would be the actual hiring process for the executive director.
Correct.
Is
Yeah.
that,
So,
does
so
that
it's
feel
two,
accurate?
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
two different things. One is for the interim and then one is for essentially the permanent.
So interim, less formal, board appointed, and then just really using this meeting then to advertise that we are looking for an interim executive director.
And that you could, I mean, you're making that choice, so
Yes, please. Okay. Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
Wait, we're searching right now. So there's just a few things.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes,
that. It's
thank
super
you.
Helpful. That's,
State
that's
approval. Yeah, and legally, because I did consult with Corporation Counsel and they said we could not make a move until after Len's last day. So we can look.
Right, so. Obviously, I'm just saying that you could actually make that decision today. or
Okay.
Next week, and make it effective.
I want some verification from Corporation Counsel because I was directed not to do that. So yeah, I just want to make sure, absolutely.
So if I could just ask, based on your, because you're the institutional knowledge here right now, congratulations for that. So since you've gone through this process before, and you mentioned that the interim always came from within the organization, no. Oh. That's okay. In your experience, which one was smoother, given the fact that an external candidate would have to go through a vetting procedure that involves the state and the time lag associated with that? Okay.
Just a matter
Mhm.
of running more smoothly, so I think that. Fire. Really guide what this board. There's more circumstances than just things.
So, right, it sounds like, to paraphrase out of the two that you've witnessed, one was in crisis, we'll call, and the other one was just more of a formality of a director moving on and a new director coming in. Different set of circumstances. Okay, cool.
May I raise a question, please?
Mr. Byrd.
Patricia, am I correct? You said that the interim director would have to meet the state's requirements for a full executive director. I'm not sure that's the case. The state has requirements for an executive director. It has no requirements for an interim executive director. And no.
It's a really short timeline to meet that criteria
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Particularly since one of the requirements is that the executive director take the ORR training course. And I can't conceive of an outside
Oh.
person coming to us with those skills under normal circumstances. There may be a rare person who does meet that requirement. And I think the interim action is designed for crisis situations. We have an opening, we need to
Right.
temporarily fill it while we pursue a permanent replacement. So that would be a question to verify with the state.
Absolutely. I have written that one down. All right. So we feel like we have all the questions answered as it relates to our responsibility for interim selection. So any internal, external candidates that are interested, please reach out to me. My contact information is also on our website under Board of Commissioners as well, but feel free to see. And so with that in mind too, since we do have a shortened timeline. Oh, sorry, Lucy, go ahead. Commissioner Ebel.
I guess with my experience with other places that I've worked at, when a director plans on leaving, retiring, or taking another job, the organization, the HR department starts right away and starts searching for someone, which I know it says here within 5 business days, appoint an interim executive director, within 15 business days, appoint an executive transition committee, but just like she was mentioning, I think it would be wise if we could appoint someone as far as appoint the executive transition committee. You know, we need to start working on this now. We can't wait till the 20th. Maybe we won't make it official until then, but I think that we should already start looking into this and not waiting, because that gives us not much time. And that would also give us the search committee, whoever that would be, time to have people who are interested start applying so that we can have candidates that we can choose from. And as far as having the state approve all those, yeah, that would be a matter of, I don't know how long it takes them to approve, but I would think that it would take them knowing that we need to have somebody appointed or somebody hired, that they would work with us if we were to speak with them. And so I think that we should not wait. And I don't know whether this is something you talk to legal about, but just in my experience working with other organizations, we right away start working on trying to find a replacement and not wait till the last minute, but start right away. That's my recommendation.
And I think you're talking about bucket number 2 also, as far as their posting of the position.
And
is
that's really
concerned.
once you establish who that team is, then again, that's where we could help along the way, just because we know what the processes were in the past. Like, how do you get, if you choose to, how do you get community engagement? What did the steps of the interview process look like? Again, you guys are completely driving this, but we can provide that information of what was done in the past and what suggestions we would have. And again, how to get that information out too.
So
Fully
just
understand
given
that
the
this is
nature
your
of the things,
process.
the things that we need to accomplish, maybe it's important right now to establish the next date that we meet in May. Does that feel like the right next step?
Yeah, Madam Chair, this
Yes.
Lucy raises a great point. Just for this appointment of an interim, I think we need immediate clarification what the authority is with regard to state involvement in choosing our interim. And we need to start processing that right now with it going into effect on May 20th.
I will make sure that we do that. And I will notify you. Pardon me?
I think we would just, if we appointed an interim, we would just send to the state the name of the individual who is temporarily serving as the director.
And then
they don't have to approve that or, that kind of thing. I think they just, thank you,
Well, I guess that's what we need to clarify.
Yeah.
That's basically a notice or an
so
approval.
we'll send the name.
Have we officially appointed an interim?
We have not.
No.
We have not.
That's, we still,
So could I be so bold as to make a recommendation? I make the motion that we appoint Anna Bednarik as the interim director at this particular time.
is there support?
Support.
So we have discussion. My concern is honestly that I have some questions yet from legal perspective before we go forward. And so, and it's,
could-
is it
could we-
specifically around that date? And I was
Okay.
told very specifically not to take any action until after Lynn's last day.
Okay, the uniqueness of it right now is we have an incapacitated executive director due to medical issues.
It doesn't matter.
Unable
Yeah,
to do the job, so it's a unique
I
situation.
know, yeah.
Can we go ahead and vote on this? And if legal says, whoa, you can't do that, then we don't do it. But I don't want to leave it in limbo. We need a point person.
We've been operating though, I mean, because she's on FMLA. And that's why, and so Anna steps into that per policy. You know, Commissioner Brody.
Yes, so a couple of things. One is that even if we were today to make a choice for appointment, we could not say that it was effective until May 21. Because right now we currently still have a director and we can't take that step while we still have a director. So regardless, it wouldn't be effective till May 21. Personally, I would like to take a little bit more time to gather any more names and to see, you know, what our pool is to choose from for that position, because, you know, as Patricia said, there was that one time where it took 8 months. So giving just a little more time, a little more thought, still trying to have an effective date
I agree.
as soon as
I would
possible.
only say that a lot of the discussions surrounding a situation like this take place outside of board meetings. And I just want to make sure that this complete board is involved in all of the steps.
Absolutely.
You know, that it isn't, this is what legal says, we have to do this, and here's our person, you know. I want to make sure we don't go there.
Well, I think that Chair Cosby is asking for us, you know, to facilitate an earlier meeting so we can come back and talk about this prior to May 20. So that is still, again, would be prior to the effective date of May 21.
Do we have any proposed dates or, I'm sorry.
That's,
Ashley.
well, and no, that's exactly what I was leaning into or leading up to. If people are looking at their calendars, I don't know if May 17th is an available day. It's a Friday, just staying with Friday. Same time.
I may be out of town that day.
Oh, okay.
17.
How about the 16th?
I'll
Would
be out of
that still
town
be a morning meeting?
that whole period.
You're going to be out of town that week?
Yes, actually from the 14th on, I'll be out. Yeah.
Okay. How about the 9th of May?
That works for me.
How about the 10th of May?
The 10th?
I just say that because May
Just
9
to-
is a tulip time parade and I got to be in that with our organization.
Sure.
There,
We could do it at 10 or 10 a.m.
possibly there is a legislative
Right,
meeting
yeah.
that
Yes.
morning, so maybe 11 would be
At 11.
better.
I mean, you're always gonna run into that.
I know. I'm trying to
What-
find the
what
date.
time
There's
would
a
you s-
Monday, the 13th as well.
What time would you want on May 9? Could it be early, like 9 o'clock?
We can do 9 o'clock if
I-
that's
I-
that's,
I mean, it's not about me, that's not it, but it is tulip
you're gone
time.
the whole week now.
Yeah.
We're all gonna be caught
Does
up.
that work?
If we can do it at 9, yeah.
And share your thoughts
Um,
prior to
yeah.
that though.
Sure. I'll an email or something. I don't
We
feel
can work on this if you're interested. We can work on it prior too.
Dave, did you say you'd be gone that 9th and 10th?
Yeah, I'm on vacation from the
Like-
30th through
about
15th, but
Friday?
I'll send emails or whatever, just 2 cents
Yeah.
to Gretchen.
And I can do that too. I can send emails too. So whatever works.
Well, I think we are. What date did we just land on the 9th though? That works for
Because you said the 10th is a meeting, right?
the 10th. We could do it at 11. That work for?
Yeah.
So land on May 10th at 11 a.m.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
And I just don't, we will reschedule the millage steering committee for those members who are on the millage steering committee.
I just thought of that.
Yes, that's what I was gonna ask you, Patricia, for your help with this one. So reschedule from the 24th to
Do we have?
May
the
10th.
The time required to get,
We can make them. On May 10th.
Because I don't think we're gonna have a full agenda. But there is some concern for contracts.
Yes.
Mhm.
And financial statements that we need to be approved every month, and I know that the financial, there's no way they're gonna be ready by.
And contracts
Contracts.
will need, yeah.
So could we call it a special meeting and then continue to meet on May 24th for the people who can?
Sure.
Let's call a special meeting then for. Yep.
It's within that 5 days.
Mhm.
So.
Right,
necessary to make.
right.
You have someone in mind who's got those, you want to make that part of the discussion for both of those. Or another thing, I'm not sure that we have enough time together.
What I'm concerned about is having a quorum, so I knew there were several people on May 24th that weren't going to be available. Yes, no, sorry, yeah, so.
The holiday weekend.
So,
On the 24th, we're talking?
so one other
You be in,
yes.
yeah,
So one other
will you
date,
be here?
one other date suggestion would be the 23rd instead of the 24th for CMH. I don't know if that works any better. Because we could do both the contracts and handle the interim. Right.
Yeah. Be able to gather information for people.
Right.
As well.
Everybody available on the 23rd?
I'm out that whole week, but I
You're
can
out that whole
email,
week.
I can email. You know.
I won't be available.
were we looking at morning or afternoon? I
I
teach in
don't
the
have a
afternoon
problem.
right now.
Morning.
The morning's free. But
Morning's free for you, Christian?
I have an appointment at 9.
So you,
How about the 22nd?
you could still keep the 10th and then,
Yeah, we
and
can-
then do the 23rd to solve your quorum problem for contracts.
Unless we make it at 11, so I could be available at 11 on the 23rd.
Can you be available at 11?
I've got to be in Coopersville at 1. So that's gonna be tight.
Do we
given-
want to check to see if we might have a quorum available for the 24th? I've heard of a couple people who aren't going to be
Yeah,
available.
let's see how many of us would be available on the 24th.
Need so.
Are you guys available on the
I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
24th, are you available on the 24th?
Okay.
Quorum.
Yeah, 2 days.
We have 8.
We're actually,
You
no.
have a quorum. All right, then we'll stay with the 24th. And that's, I know. I was trying to avoid taking a lunch. Yeah, I'm doing some of this work ahead of time.
Question?
So nothing on the 10th, everything's on the 24th? Or you just wanted a special?
What do you
we-
think?
we
Should
ha-
we meet on the
well-
10th or
Well, don't we have to appoint a special committee or?
not
until-
until 15 days after? But we can talk about it, definitely.
In the way the policy reads, I believe the executive committee can appoint the special committee.
All right.
Perfect. So we don't all have to meet in an effort to do that. That's probably the makeup of that committee, though, we probably could discuss right now too. Before we start that work as well, the executive transition committee. Because there's 3 of us on the executive committee, but I think that it would be important to have more representation.
Well, I like what Margie said a little while ago about even some community engagement. Did they do that before, Patricia? Sometimes. Whichever time.
Very robust. Very, very robust. Actually,
Wow.
Very robust. Very good.
Oh, my.
Multiple rounds of interviews. It was a very, very robust process. So, I mean, it really is up to this board.
Sure.
In depth, how do they want.
Gotcha.
They
Posted and where they want to go. every time.
They also asked for input from the employees that worked at CMH, really to build the recruitment profile itself. Was community members, employees, that
Yeah.
huge wide net. And again, and then the process involved quite a bit of that too. Yep.
Have an interviewing team. Yeah. So for each one of the candidates to come, I feel like I'm putting the cart before the horse here, but yeah, just conceptually, as we get the executive director candidates in, that we do have like an interview team that does include the CMH employees as well.
Right, and you
Maybe
can
a
set
sub-
that all, once you know who the committee is that's going to be doing the hiring, you can set all those steps. We can put it on a timeline. And again, I'm just assisting here.
Yeah,
I know you
yeah.
guys make the decision, but you can timeline that all out of how will you get, if you want community engagement, if you want employee engagement, and build all that going forward. So everybody knows upfront what that process is.
Mhm.
And lay out the timeline of interviews. Who will they meet with? Again, they did meet with the management committee at CMH, and you could lay all that out so you have it all in place. So every applicant knows what that process will look like and that you do.
So an agenda in essence, basically, for the interview process. Do we have feedback for, I mean, I can get into the weeds with this because I've done a lot of interviewing in the past, but yeah, just kind of consistency as far as feedback form is concerned for the people who are interviewing, that type of thing. And that's probably more for the executive transition committee, but kind of thoughts as
Right,
to how we
yep.
conduct those interviews.
Yeah, and it really depends. I mean, it does, as Patricia said, it really depends on where you are at as a board, how you want to do that, because both processes were vastly different. So,
Okay.
and it just depends. But again, just making sure once you've established what the process is, making sure that's clear and clearly followed. That way you won't get any concerns moving forward.
I think what I'd like to recommend that we do is stick with our timeline here on the 24th. We will at that point, appoint our interim executive director. And then on the 24th also discuss, or we can select who our executive transition committee members are. I'm wondering if the executive team could meet to discuss kind of what the makeup of that committee looks like. And then we can present prior to that, and then we can present it on the 24th. Does that sound reasonable? Am I missing anything?
I have a question.
Yes.
So what we're saying is that on May the 24th, we're going to appoint the interim executive director. So my question is, prior to that day, are we going to be receiving applications, interest, is something going to be put out that people can know about it so that we will have people options to appoint? Because we can't really wait on that day to appoint someone if we have not put out the information that we're looking for someone that's interested. So my question is, who's going to handle that? How are we going to handle that? And we need to do that like ASAP.
So as I understand that all applicants will come to the chair, so that's me. And as I receive those applicants, can I push them? Yep.
Yeah.
My recommendation is that if qualified, and it should be pushed to the board, that you just forward to the board for review, and all of those that you would push forward to the board to review. And maybe perhaps you would like to include the reference that we take time.
Absolutely.
And those reviews and say, do you agree that these people should push forward? And then you can distribute those to the board, so that we'll have this meeting that you guys should all have been informed about and have, so you can have conversation. Does that?
Yep. And I commit to pushing those to the executive committee.
And
And
there-
so, yeah,
And there's another, I'm sorry, there's another factor. Because Patricia said that the interim also has to be approved by the state. So, okay, say we get 10 people that are interested. We can't really appoint somebody on the
look into
24th.
that. That's
Okay.
part of what I'm going to look into with
Okay.
our corporation council.
Right, you have like a date by which those.
I have that as one of my questions and we'd stop receiving, yeah. But do we even have a formal application process for an interim? So
So I think you have to decide if you want to do a formal application process or if you as a board just want to bring forward who you want as
I
the
would
interim.
prefer that methodology, just given the short time frame that we have.
I think that,
A point of order. I believe there's a motion on the floor, on the table.
Yes,
We're not making any real decisions as a board. It's vital discussion. But just.
it is a
so we
discussion
address
item. I think it's a discussion item.
that. Mhm.
So,
And it is a discussion.
so, pardon me? Ah, yes. Sorry, thank you.
Send their motion, or you can take. Take it.
That would be him.
Oh, do we want?
I'm not going to rescind it. So I understand what legal has said, but
Okay, we can take a vote and we should do that by roll call. And it's a yes that you do want to appoint Anna Bender,
yes.
you know, and
Still on the shoe.
and so is my understanding that if we vote no, then we will be.
what, it doesn't mean that
taking it-
Anna's not going to be the candidate. It just means that we have some other steps that
Yes.
need to be taken.
That will take it back up again on May 24.
Correct.
Okay.
I have a question. So, first of all, I know the motion has been made, but then Anne has not really been asked whether she would be willing or not. I mean, that's another.
Yes, I would be willing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anne.
And just to clarify, a no vote does not reject Anna as an
Correct.
ultimate interim director. It's just
Correct.
as of this date.
At this point, yeah.
Exactly,
correct.
exactly. There are just a couple other things that we need to clarify. Absolutely not.
No,
No.
No.
Yes.
Did you just say my name? I can't hear you. Oh, no.
Yes.
No.
No.
No. No.
And again, to clarify, it does not mean that you will not be the interim selection.
I will still plan on submitting my information.
Perfect. You can be first,
Perfect.
maybe only. So, okay, so the chair will take all comers basically interested in the position. I will bring that to my fellow executive committee board members. And then we want to, and then we can present on the 24th, May 24th. Does that sound appropriate? All right, I will consult with Corporation Counsel to make sure that we are doing things as intended appropriately. And especially the question in and around, do we have to submit interim applicants to MDHHS?
We can also reach out to MDHHS too and inquire.
Okay.
So I'll make sure that we get that information to the board chair.
Great, thank you. And Anna will be the first applicant. Okay. All right. Anything else I committed to? Honestly, honestly,
got
I do want to know.
got a question.
Yes.
So did we decide today whether or not we're gonna put out this information that we're looking for people to apply?
This is our informal yeah, kind of
So is there-
apply for.
So
Recruitment.
how are we going to advertise this, I guess is my question.
We've decided as a board that the interim is more informal and based upon previous experience that we would rely on the board to make that decision. So as the newly appointed board chair, I'm going to take the applicants that we receive. I'm going to give those to my fellow executive committee members. And then we're going to make a recommendation on May 24th. Or we can bring the applicants forward and we can take a vote. If
So
there are.
I still don't have an answer. How are those gonna be advertised?
We're not there yet.
I'm not sure that it's necessary to advertise it, because it's not the permanent position. And so
Right.
this public meeting is the advertisement
Okay.
of
that's what
that
I-
position.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions? Are we missing anything, Marcy? Patricia? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Board members know some of the things that recommend, they go with it.
Yes, there you go.
So, the only thing I would recommend is that whoever's resonates.
Okay. All right. So-
If I could make one further comment. My experience with other public agencies is in the absence of an executive director, the board chair sometimes steps in and fulfills those responsibilities until a permanent replacement is selected, or a fellow board member could also apply for that. So that leaves the table open for any of us who would like to contact you.
Okay. Thank you. And that would happen though after the 24, or yeah, after the 20th, before we could do that, the effective day. Yep. All right. I think it's clear, hopefully.
So they're gonna email you to your email address. Maybe it might be a good idea to say that.
Sure. I am gcosby@miottawa.org.
Thank you.
And anybody can push those applications to me as well, or not applications, recommendations,
Resume.
recommendations to me.
And just a point of order to make sure, so the wordsmithing you're looking for has to be how it's placed in the minutes, since it is literally through the minutes and through watching this and through word of mouth. They're the only methods of transmittal about this. So it's actually how you put it that is the important part.
Recommendations will be forwarded to the board chair. There you go. All right. So moving on then, got through that. Next up is our Executive Deputy Director report.
Great, thank you, everybody. So I just have a few things to report from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. As the board is aware, they presented the proposed model for conflict-free access and planning. I shared that with you earlier this week. They presented that on April 1st. The intent of the conflict-free rules is to promote consumer choice and independence by limiting conscious or unconscious bias by a supports coordinator when assisting a person served in identifying their home and community-based setting needs and developing plans to access those services. During the presentation on April 1st, I was also in attendance. There were several CMHSPs who expressed their concerns over the proposal. The Community Mental Health Association also has expressed their concerns over the proposal. The Community Mental Health Association of Michigan is continuing to meet with MDHHS leadership. They met with key leadership this week. I did speak with Bob Sheehan, who's the executive director of the Community Mental Health Association. And he informed me he is also meeting with leadership of MDHH next week to continue sharing the concerns of the community mental health system regarding the proposal from MDHHS for how they are looking at conflict-free access and planning to roll out in the state.
I'm sorry, I missed the very first part of that.
Yes.
Can you just give me like your first sentence or two again?
Yeah, so the MDHHS presented their proposed model for conflict-free access and planning to the CMH programs on April 1st. So then the intent of the conflict-free rules is to promote consumer choice and independence by limiting consciousness or unconscious bias by a supports coordinator when assisting a person served in identifying their home and community-based setting needs and developing plans to access those services. So at that April 1 presentation, the CMH directors who were at the table did express their concerns with how the state is putting together the proposed model. The Community Mental Health Association also has been doing a lot of work expressing their concerns on the state's proposed model. The state has not submitted their proposal to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid for approval yet. And along with that, for conflict-free access and planning in our current structure, we do ensure that assessment and planning are separate from authorization. So we're meeting those conflict-free rules. We need to go back and look further to make sure that the model the state is proposing we can align with, but we aren't sure that that model is going to be the final model. So when Bob Sheehan's been meeting with the states, who's the executive director of the Community Mental Health Association, they're having discussions to relook at those proposed models to make sure that they are fitting what the home and community-based setting rule is at the federal level. I didn't have any updates from the region at this moment with community mental health. Updates that I have for our organization, we have the Millage Steering Committee who met on April 12th and completed the social rec program evaluations. The committee is compiling those evaluations and will be forwarding them to the board next month for review. The plan is to have those delivered to the board well before the board meeting so that there's plenty of time to be able to review the evaluations. The committee will also be drafting a social recreation request for proposal to be released in May with the goal of finalizing the process by September for funding to begin October 1. The committee is working with the Ottawa County Purchasing Department to follow all of the county policies for RFPs for that social rec RFP. The committee is also working on a draft RFP, which we've discussed here before, to utilize millage savings for the board to review. That RFP will come to the board for review before it's released. Then next, we are continuing to work with county administration to bring a new position request to the county finance committee. I discussed this position last month. It's the CMHIT business analyst. The position will be responsible for supporting CMH's complex electronic medical record system, which is the backbone for our business structure and includes clinical documentation, insurance claims processing, encounter reporting, financial reporting, and external data reporting. We do a lot of reporting. The position will be funded by Medicaid. There is funding available in the FY24 budget, and we are including it in the FY25 budget and going forward if it is approved. And then last but not least, we did talk a little bit earlier about the health fair. So there is a health fair that's happening on May 16th. That will be from 3:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. at the Salvation Army in Holland. That is located at 104 Clover Street in Holland. There's going to be 30 plus organizations providing information, resources, snacks, and different activities along with several giveaways. Anybody who's interested can attend that event. It's a lot of fun and you get to see some really cool resources that we have available in this community. It is the third annual event that we have been the organizer for, but there are a lot of participants and we're excited to see it continue to grow. And that was all I had for my report.
What was that date again?
Yes, that's okay.
May 16th.
May 16th.
And
very
I can share the flyer with the board.
I've attended before, very valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, healthcare, definitely. Okay. Any questions?
How
Or
are those
Ann?
sent out? The health fair thing, do you send those out to?
The health fair flyers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we work with the organizations who are participating and they distribute flyers.
Okay.
We post it on social media. I believe it's out on our website as well. And then we,
Looks like that.
yes,
There you
and
go.
we have that.
You
we
have
have
to
next
share
training
that.
questions.
Yeah, share that with Beth.
Did I miss any other ways we've distributed? Okay, in our
There's a-
newsletters as well.
All right, moving on to general information, comments and meetings attended. Doesn't look like we have anything here. And lastly, number 10 is public comment, second round of public comment. Please come to the podium, state your name, where you vote. You have 3 minutes. All statements are to be made to the board chair.
Hi, Rosalie Austin, City of Holland. Got a big job to do, but I wonder what happened to the financial status report, which is formerly known as the bucket report for the regional. It would compare each county and where they are in their finances, if they're red, yellow, green. So that's something to keep an eye on. And the residential, I think there should be like a training for people that do choose placement in group homes. Like a residential council like nursing homes have, so that people can express their concerns and be heard and hopefully collaborate and work together to alleviate some of these special investigation reports and address the concerns that way, because it's common occurrence. In the organizational chart, how are we going to update that? And can we have people's credentials next to their names so we know who's who? There's like a third of the staff are all new. And April is Autism Awareness Month, but it's also Caregiver Awareness Month. And I want to recognize the direct support care workers that do help us support our loved ones. There's not enough of them. They need more training. They need better compensation. They need some benefits. They need lots of unmet needs. Yeah, and there's direct care worker shortage, and a lot of that is training and supervision to improve quality care. And I just hate to see any pass the buck attitude that it's Lara, it's licensing, it's recipient rights, it's APS, that all need to work together to improve quality of care. And that's all.
Thank you, Rosalie.
Barbara Lee Van Horsen, Grand Haven, Michigan, the city and Momentum Center. I'm sure that you're aware of this and that the process is already going on, because I'm sure it's a priority for you as well. But I do note that you're missing 2 members of the board. You don't have your primary consumer positions filled. And I think those are critical positions. One of the individuals whose term just expired has reapplied. He sat through this entire meeting until about 10 minutes ago. So I would just urge you to please make haste in filling those positions. Those voices need to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. I just asked about Stephen and whether or not he applied. So, excellent. Hi,
Denise Newhouse, Holland Township. When you guys read the mission and the vision statement, Community Mental Health of Ottawa County strives to enhance quality of life for all residents. My daughter's sitting in limbo, she needs to move, but so far that works like they're slow as molasses. And for Michaela, she is in this home for serious mental illness, but she has organic brain damage due to fetal alcohol. She sees no way out. She doesn't see any end to the client that's verbally and physically harming her. She's always told she needs to make good choices and move, but her brain is only so much. Because last Friday morning, I had a few phone calls from her, And it ended up with that she sees no way out. Her only way out is to end her life. That nothing is going to change. She's going to be in another home where she's not allowed to do anything, where she gets bullied and hit, and then is told it's her fault, and she doesn't understand it. So I picked her up Friday. We changed our whole weekend around, because this is my daughter. But when she is like a 5-6-year-old and she doesn't understand logic, I don't know what to do. I mean, I can bring her home and I can build her up, but I can't have her live in my home because we have another special needs child in my home. So, I'm just looking for something to enhance quality of life. I don't understand why things take so long, and, we're just told there are no specialized residential, and who knows where she'll be sent, because I don't have hope in the system. And I don't know how to answer my daughter when she's constantly like this. It's just frustrating as a mom. Thank you.
Denise, are those incidents being investigated? Do you know?
No, they're determined not to be substantiated. The gentleman who tried to kill her. It was not substantiated because of different reasons. But the person is smaller than she is. So I don't know.
Need to learn more. Thank you. Is there anybody else who's interested in public comment? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah, you can text me. This is a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not much different than it was.
Create a group.
Well, necessarily. We have a. I don't know. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. What about me? The other thing is. 35, but. Apparently I need to take 5:30 in the morning. You did any? You got.
No, I mean, it's good, but there's just.
And then the OR.
Some political, so.
Now we have.
Silo. Far that's been worked out.
Yeah, but
Thanks, but.
Carve it up. Run a program committee. When I go to a finance meeting.
They don't help that much, but anyway, no, I think you did a great job. You did a really good job. So, onward and upward. Mhm. It's a very complicated system. Now, do you know, I'm sure you know this, but I don't even know the numbers, what are there, 47 CMHs? No, I did. They were over there, I don't know.
So I sent for.
Yeah. But there's only like 3 CMHOC is in the whole state that are part of the county, like Ottawa.
Yeah, I think.
Plus the Muskegon. Because it, yeah. Anyway,
It's really critically important. to start-
I don't know. I'm thinking about stuff.
They can do the homework.
Oh,
United Kingdom, it's